Do you feel like Saudi Arabia could become the next big player in football?
Inevitably, there is only one decisive factor that would make the Saudi Arabian League anything special.
Saudi Arabia's been on the up when it comes to sporting events. WWE, boxing, recently the football, Formula One is going there. They say they don't want to go, but they still go and drive around there.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the One Kick from Glory podcast. It's all of us here today, live and direct. Going to start things up a little bit differently. A small bit different, not too majorly different. But if you're listening and watching on Spotify, please let us know how you found the episode. Please like it, comment, rate it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do the same. We're always looking for people to let us know how they find things and episodes and stuff. But how's everyone been this week? I want to start with you, Matthew, and work our way around.
It's been all right. Been enjoying most of the hot weather. It's trying to stay cool. Welcome thunderstorm. As far as football's concerned, it's like, I don't know. They're taking like the Sports Direct approach. Clearance sale. Everything just must go. We're like the new Sports Direct FC at the moment. Every minute, every day, just looking around. It's like there's never a dull moment with football. Is why I love it. Even though there's no kick of the ball in Premier League anyway, something's always going down. Always going down, man.
And we'll definitely touch on that Sports Direct element a bit more in a little bit. Craig, how's your week been so far?
Been challenging, but I've been okay. Watching the cricket on spare time, been enjoying it. So yeah.
And skipped away from football to cricket. And you, Mark, how's it been so far for you this week?
Yeah, week's been okay, apart from my country letting me down. Losing to Kazakhstan, gotta love it. But yeah, no, it's been good.
And you were there in the stadium. What was that experience like watching the game live?
Yeah, atmosphere was fantastic. Like, one thing that, you will say about, Northern Ireland fans is they really go and they really make some noise. And, they're chanting, their different songs about Georgie Best and, all, their Ulster chants for the entire game. And it's a wonderful experience. And it was the better team comfortably, but, just some poor defending at the end where they decided to take each other out and not the actual player they should take out. And the Kazakhstani forward runs through and pops it in the net. And a fair shout out to the Kazakhstan fans. They were fantastic, like 50 of them just in the corner down there making lots of noise. But yeah, I think that almost kills off Northern Ireland's chances of the Euros. But 3-1-0 defeats in a row now to Denmark, Finland, and Kazakhstan. So, yeah, there you go.
I mean, on the one hand, that's great consistency. It's only 1-0. I mean,
man.
Kazakhstan is a big negative. I mean, you didn't want to lose against them 1-0. But, there's consistency there. 1-0 defeats every time, so there's something to build on. At least it's showing that defensively you're solid most of the game, except for the moments when you have a lapse. And offensively, there's work to be done.
Yeah, well, Kazakhstan beat Denmark 3-2 in an earlier qualifying game, which was a very impressive result, but just kind of threw a spanner in the works there. But the other team in the group are the mighty San Marino, and I did a little bit of research on San Marino because Northern Ireland beat San Marino 2-0 away from home, and I'm going to be looking to get tickets to go to the home game because I need a guaranteed 3 points. And San Marino have won one international game in their entire history. That was back in 2004. They beat Liechtenstein 1-0 in a friendly. They've never won a competitive international game, a qualifier for the World Cup or the Euros. And in all of their games, they have scored a grand total of 29 goals whilst conceding 803.
You see, the problem with odds like that is you don't want to be the outlier to make it their second win in a long time. And it's primed that way. That's. I mean, look, if you're a striker low on confidence, you know what game coming up that you want to bag in, definitely. And if you're a person whose familial history might be a bit not sure how to determine where you're from, I'm saying San Marino could get a call up. I'm just saying, some of you guys out there on YouTube, you might want to play San Marino. You might become a legend if you bag the goal at least their next win, their second win in all these games. But I feel like we can comfortably say, we've having a heat wave here in the UK. It's been nice. It's not universal across the whole country because I know that in Scotland they had torrential rain, which affected their game last night. And for us, it's been a heat wave. It's been nice. We're all in shorts more or less in the studio, which you can't see. If you can see, if you can't, don't worry about it. But ultimately, I think you can say in the world of football, it does feel like the times are changing. I want to start off with a topic that's not top of my list, but one that I think is going to be quite interesting to see how this season pans out. There's been all this talk about the amazing work that CBS has been done with the Champions League coverage, with Kate Addo, Thierry Henry, Micah Richards, and Jamie Carragher, how the four of them together is a great chemistry. It's been really entertaining to watch every time. And there's lots of question marks about what the other networks would do. BT there's rumours that Laura Waters might be going there. It's not Laura Waters. What is her name?
Or from Sky Sports.
No, Laura from TalkSport.
Laura Woods.
Laura Woods, not Laura Waters. Laura Waters is someone from work. But Laura Woods might be going there to take over, which could be quite interesting if that happens. But I want to shift over to the other major player in the field. So BT Sport are now going to be called TNT from next season. Sky Sports, been around for donkeys. They were the first ones in the UK to kind of bring that level of broadcasting to football and sports. But we had the news actually come out earlier on, back in the last week, start this week, that Martin Tyler has been retired off or not going to be broadcasting at Sky Sports from next season, which is a massive transition. And we're going to be heading over to Peter Drury, which I feel like for a lot of people, that's a massive upgrade. I think Martin Tyler's standards definitely dropped over the years. For you, Craig, what's one of your favourite Martin Tyler moments?
Aguero! I'll never forget that. I remember the one he did for Tony Adams when he won the league in '98 as well. That was a good thing as well. He's had some classic moments as a pundit as well. So
he has. What about you, Matthew?
Moments.
What's one of your highlight ones?
Second the Aguero, just because of the tempo of the game, the stakes, what was going down. It wasn't a straightforward game, and just the last kick of the last season of the game, giving City first of their many titles, but. I think everyone that day, I was a secret Man City fan that day for the league. I just didn't want Man United to win, but just how it went down was absolutely unforgettable. It's like in football folklore, and his voice just kind of, you felt the passion in his voice. But another one sticking out was when I think he did the Champions League final, and if something sounds better than Aguero, it's Chokba! That bass in his voice when he put that header away like he always does. Like it was. And you felt the thing, and you just felt the relief and the passion in his voice, because it's like, he wants to back the English team. The game was kind of going nowhere for a bit. They scored and it equalised, and it's like he wasn't ready for it happening. And of course, when we lifted the trophy, like it was just a sweet moment. So yeah, he will be missed. He's going to be missed.
Yeah. For you, Mark, when you think about this transition, obviously Martin Tyler, like we say, he's had quite a few legendary moments. I mean, my favourite one is when Henry scored against Chelsea at Highbury. It was I think it might have been the 2-1 game or 2-2, but it was a long ball out the back from the back. Kolo Touré dropped it. We don't usually do long ball football. Dropped it onto Henry's head. Henry headed it down to Reyes, who returned the ball to him. Henry took one touch of his right foot, left foot volley. It's like the hitman. It's Henry. Because, you guys know what Henry's all about. But for you, Mark, how big do you think this transition is going to be for them now, moving to Peter Drury, who we know has had some amazing legendary moments, especially in European football when he's been commentary? How big is that going to be now for Sky?
Yeah, no, it's a good move for Sky, and I think the main thing is they want to maintain the consistency, right, of quality commentary from quality commentators. So, I think for me, like, you want them to have them big moments in the big times, but for the rest of the season, you almost want them just to kind of do their job and not be noticed. There's nothing more frustrating than watching a football match for 90 minutes and the commentator thinks he's the best player on the pitch, right? Like, it's just like, you're the supporting act, like, do your job well. And you may have a moment or two in the season where, we focused on the supporting act and give them a round of applause, but really there's, 22 other stars that we're here to watch and it's not you. So I think, that's kind of what I'm looking for in my commentators. And, good luck to Peter Drury for the new season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting transition, and we'll see how they do. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on them to give us world-class action. We said CBS are the market leaders right now, and Sky have got to step their game up, because if not, I'm sorry, but we will find a way to watch CBS in the UK through whatever means necessary legally. Of course. But obviously the other big changing point, and it's having a big topic of discussion this summer is, of course, the influence of Saudi Arabia in football. We know with the deal that brought Karim Benzema over to Saudi Arabia that they effectively gave him the choice to pick what club he wanted to choose and join. And that is practically unheard of in world football. I've never known of a country just giving someone money and saying, choose where you want to go. That's unprecedented. But I want to start with you on this note, Mark. Like, do you feel like this Saudi Arabia could become the next big player in football? Because I know when we talked about this a few weeks ago, and we did say, just looking at the implications of what it could have, and you did say that you didn't really think it would be that much of a serious player, because obviously they're getting a lot of players that are getting towards the end of their careers. But the key determinant was going to be if they started picking up some younger, more promising players. But do you think that they are likely to be the next major player, or is this just China and the MLS version 2, but with just more money in the Middle East?
Yeah, my views haven't changed. I know they signed Ruben Neves, and if anything, I just lost confidence that Ruben Neves has any ambition as a footballer. To be honest, more than thinking Saudi Arabia had made it. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, they have lots of money to spend, so it is a kind of China 2.0. And inevitably, there is only one decisive factor that would make the Saudi Arabian League anything special, and that was if they was allowed to play in the Champions League. If you gave that league 3 or 4 Champions League spots, players might be more inclined to move there because they'd still be able to have the ambition of playing and winning the biggest trophy in European football, and that could give them something to kind of build. But for as long as that's not on the table, and the UEFA president seems to think it's not going to be on the table anytime soon, I don't think it should be ever on the table either, personally. But yeah, for as long as that's not on the table, I think it will just continue to be a place for ambitious list Ruben Neves is to go and make 400k a year, a week, and and players who wouldn't necessarily be able to do anything in the Premier League, like Graciano Pele, to go and be on 250 grand in China a week, like whatever it was, like So I think it's really just 2.0 in my opinion. And people will talk, and they'll talk about the players that go there, and they'll make them seem like they're better than they are, because that's the entire marketing process that's going into all of this. But I think all in all, we've seen this before. It's just done with a little bit more money.
It is done for a little bit more money. I mean, there's a lot of interesting players that have been linked with moving over to Saudi Arabia. Obviously, coming over to you, there's quite a few of your quote-unquote deadwood that you're looking to shift over there. There's been a lot of talk about the potential influence of the Saudi Public Investment Fund potentially investing in the consortium that owns Chelsea, the investment fund that runs it. We're not really sure. People tried looking into it. It's not really clear who exactly is putting money in that hedge fund that runs Chelsea or owns it, that Bowley. And I think his name is Egali, or who they're the faces for. And we don't know where the money's coming from, really, but doesn't really concern me. I just think it's very nice, the timing. Todd Bowley had a good meeting over in Saudi Arabia a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden now, we know Kante's gone practically. Koulibaly's up for a bid. Ziyech's up for a bid. Mendy's up for a bid. Rumours of Cucurella might be up for a bid. It's interesting how you're managing to shift all your quote-unquote deadwood. Oh, and today what also came out is that Callum Hudson-Odoi is also now a target for them. So how do you feel that you've now found a good outlay to overwrite financial fair play in Europe?
Well, I didn't hear this complaints from Newcastle having the same kind of treatment. I'm just going to say Newcastle didn't get the same beef, so why are we anyway? Who
have Newcastle sold to Saudi Arabia? I'm sorry.
They're owned by Saudi Arabia.
We have issues with that.
Yeah, but why else? Why we finished 12th, for crying out loud? Why is everyone getting on our back? It's just like,
maybe because you finished 12th last season.
we finished 12th. We've not seen how big our club is. People have got to leave. It's Sports Direct. It's Sports Direct JJB, man. Everything must go. It's happening a lot quicker, but at the same time, they're losing. I'm losing players, but I'm happy are going. Hudson-Odoi was never going to come back. Ziyech does not want to be there since the moment he got there. Mendy was good for all of 18 months. And Koulibaly, I know, mafied his way out from Napoli, Cucurella. And anyway, so I'm happy that, look, It's happening.
Cucurella's a rumor that probably won't happen, but the other three definite.
I didn't say anything about him because I don't care about him. He's been rubbish this whole time he's been here. But yeah, can you not tell? Can you not tell? Anything but him, that sideshow Bob. Yeah, it's happening very quick. Obviously, questions are going to be asked, but look, the word, unfortunately, but on a serious note, unfortunately, the word corruption has wormed its way into football a lot easier than the last 5 or 6 years. So unfortunately, with things like this, you're always going to, even when it's your own club, Man City, this, that, whoever, it's always going to hover over your head where it's like, how legitimate is this? As long as certain nations, certain people, certain corporations are involved, it's always going to be a thing. But sticking with the whole Saudi Arabia thing, you know, there's always the one thing this encourages, or the one thing it questions where it gets asked, is a possibility of a certain league that we didn't want. It could still come back. It was never really dead. Now they're going to get involved, and if they're offering the opportunity of Champions League football, there's nothing stopping them. They're saying, actually, we can bring this whole thing back. So, as I've said before, Saudi Arabia has been on the up when it comes to sporting events. WWE, boxing, recently the football, Formula One's going there. They say they don't want to go, but they still go and drive around there. It's going to be the way Markus is right, it could just be a flash in the pan, China, America sort of thing. But they're also branching out into other sports, and making it the big thing to kind of like go to. So as much as it could just be a last a year or two thing, if that Super League thing does come back, I know where my eyes are going to. That's all I'm going to say. It's not impossible because what's going to sell more, a Chelsea Arsenal in Stamford Bridge or Emirates, or in Saudi Arabia? What would sell more? What's financially the bigger incentive?
Well, you made a good point on that. I do want to bring up this point. And you mentioned the Super League could return. I think for you, Craig, in terms of and I said it, and Mark made a good point as well, this option of the Champions League being on. Obviously, there is I guess a Champions League equivalent that does exist for Asian teams that compete in. Obviously, Ronaldo was unsuccessful last season with it. Failed miserably in I think it's called the AFC Champions League or Champions Cup. But could you conceivably see that we get to a point where, due to the money that's invested and I guess the quality of players that are going to Saudi Arabia, which you'd hope improve the quality of the league, could you see that UEFA giving them an olive branch and saying, you know what, we will allow your champions or a few of your champions to compete in the Champions League in seasons to come?
With this current president, no, but money talks. So you never know what could happen. Money can talk. If they're generating all the best players are going to Saudi Arabia,
we'll caveat the best players, the best retirement
home players going to Saudi Arabia, then it could be a discussion, but I don't think it'll go that far anyway. Well, maybe. You never know.
I guess it depends on the age profile, because obviously Hudson-Odoi will be the youngest player if that move comes through. It's just paper talk right now. But if he did go to Saudi Arabia, that would be the youngest player of the ones gone there so far. I think Ruben Neves was at 26. That's the prime of your career. It's a bit of a surprising move. And like you said, Mark, it's kind of indicative of how he probably views his career, because every summer he's been doing the Wolves goodbye tour and they kept rocking up, and I think he probably had enough. So let's just get me out of Wolves. Okay, just get me out of Wolves. Saudi Arabia, 400k a week, huh? I'm there.
Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah, well, I mean Zaha's one's not confirmed yet. That's still, we'll see if that happens. But he's in his 30s, so it's a bit different. But I think when you're in your 20s to make that move, it's a bit of a big one. Yeah,
definitely. Career suicide, I say.
The other side of it with Neves is that, like Witsel, when he went to China, he made a bunch of money for 2 years, and then he came back and played for Dortmund Juventus and Dortmund. So back at kind of like the higher end of the game, that there's still maybe the chance that Neves goes and sets himself and his family up for 2 years, on 400 grand a week until 28, and then makes a big move back to Europe and still is able to play at the highest level for 2 or 3 years of his peak career. That's also a potential pathway.
That's a good point.
Could happen.
And it could just be the right move to make. Sometimes, and someone made this point actually online. They were saying that a lot of times with footballers, they're supporting, sending people around them. Like you might just think it's a footballer and their immediate family, but there could be 20 people. Well, actually, there could be 20 families that they're supporting. So when you really think about it, the money makes a difference. I know for Oscar and Ramirez, their families were set for life. Oscar, it just still feels like a waste because I get it financially, but you never came back.
So much to prove.
Ramirez had been there, done that. He was happy to kind of just chill. But Oscar, I think he could have come back to Europe and done some more.
That reminds me of another team though from Russia. Remember that Angie team when they were signing everybody? Mm-hmm. It could go south like that. It could. We just don't know. Look, if they allow one Saudi team in the Champions League, we'll just sit and watch. We'll just sit.
I could see a way where they justify, because right now the Israeli teams do play in the Champions League, and Israel it's in the economic area for Europe, but it's not technically in Europe if you talk about physical land mass space. So there's ways they could kind of justify it, but we're just gonna have to watch and see. There's lots of things happening. Never say never. It's like the Super League might be, like you said, it might be dead, but it might come back. It might be called the Saudi League. Ooh, how about that? But, moving from player transfers, we're looking at managerial changes. There's been a lot going on this summer. Still waiting for some clubs to appoint managers. We know that Tottenham have obviously made that appointment. Anger Postecoglou, I think that's how you say his name. I'm just going to call him that. I kept calling him the ex-Celtic boss, but I don't think that's fair. Anger, good appointment there. There's also news that came out of Gary O'Neill being let go by Bournemouth. He's been replaced by Adoni Iraola. How highly do you rate that decision, Mark? And do you think that is them sort of projecting where they want to be as opposed to trying to chance it with Gary O'Neill and hoping that he can kind of keep building on what he did last season?
Yeah, it's great business by Bournemouth. Absolutely great business. Like at the end of the day, it's harsh and it's cutthroat, but it almost reminds me of when Southampton hired Pochettino. And they fired, was it Adams? Was that his name? The guy who got Atkins, who got them up from League One, and you thought, man, that is brutal. It's a brutal move. But as was the case then, all Pochettino needed to do first season was keep them in the Premier League when he came over, and he did. And he united that Southampton team and moved them forward to another level, and showed that in his ability to go on to Tottenham and PSG and bigger things, and now Chelsea. I think Andoni Iraola is a young manager who is very exciting in Spain. He grew up with Arteta, and he played for Athletic Club Bilbao for the majority of his career, my Spanish team. So someone I know very well from a footballing career, was a brilliant right back, but also has gone on to show that he understands how the game works. His success last year, he took Rayo Vallecano to 11th, both beating Barcelona and Real Madrid. Actually has a better record against Barcelona. They won at home and drew at the Nou Camp. Only lost by a goal to Real Madrid away, and also drew away at Atletico Madrid as well. So the results were really good, and he's only young. I think he's ambitious. I think he's a great hire for Bournemouth. Will Bournemouth stay in the Premier League? Probably. Will Bournemouth be able to push and do more? Well, it depends on the squad that they build, but they'll play good football, and I think it's a very good move, the type of move that I think the teams around that level need to be making if they want to be pushing on.
Yeah, it's definitely a good, interesting decision to make, and we'll see how well they progress. And there's lots of changes have happened, so they got to do what they got to do. I mean, looking down to the team that are now in the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday, they let go of Darren Moore, which seemed to shock a lot of people. It was said to be by mutual consent, but I still find that was a bit of a shocking, just a surprising decision, because he got them up through the playoffs. In terms of his, I was just looking through the win rate percentages of their managers. His win rate percentage is 51.16%. You never know, but he only had 2 years, so maybe they didn't think it was good enough to build on. But I just think it's a bizarre decision to make. I guess for you, Matt, when you look at situations like that, obviously this one with Bournemouth, it looks like it could be a positive gamble, big move on there. Do you think Sheffield Wednesday might regret it, or do you think it's just like a bit of a weird choice that they did at this time?
The timing's a bit off because it hasn't been that long. I think it's been less than a month since they got promoted, and like you said, he hasn't had the longest of times to kind of establish himself on the team and probably gotten promoted. I think actually this bad luck has followed him because he was at one point West Brom manager, and they were competing in the top 4. In fact, they were firmly in a hunt for a playoff and possibly even automatic promotion, and he got sacked as well. West Brom did come up, but they also came down. So maybe it's a case, it's like the luck of Ian Holloway, where he can get you there, maybe he can't like keep you there. So if there's a club struggling for a promotion struggle, he could be the guy that gets you in the position. But it all depends on who they're looking at for a championship slot, who's a brand new team in the championship. Maybe a Premier League manager, a manager who needs to earn his chops at a club with a lot of history. Someone like, I don't know, maybe want to give Gerrard another go. He's in the prime position. It's in the championship. It's in the championship, I think, where most of these players, most of these guys should go.
But would he take that position?
Probably not. But I think Leeds were looking at Vieira. Potter's without a job. Brendan Rodgers, he's gone back to Celtic. But you get what I mean. I think it's a good opportunity. If that's what you call a project, a good opportunity for a newer up and coming manager to possibly get Sheffield, maybe even back-to-back promotions. You never know. Anything is possible against the championship, absolutely anything. But I feel for Darren Moore because he's done all this to then be safe about mutual consent. But I don't know. It depends how much I believe it. I believe in it. But the championship, it's going to be comfort.
Just on the Vieira news, he is the front runner for the Leeds job now, which could be quite interesting if he does get that. Might make me watch Leeds a bit more coming up next season. In Southampton, they've announced Russell Martin. He's left Swansea and joined them. There's big changes there. We still don't have a new manager for Paris Saint-Germain. I'm repping their kit today, but it's rumoured to be Luis Enrique. Is very close to becoming the next manager. Do you think if Enrique gets in, Craig, how well do you think PSG would do next season? Do you think they could finally win the Champions League if they keep Mbappe?
I think if he does get the manager's job at PSG, he'll get the right players that he wants. He'll get the right players that he wants in the team. He won't have the board giving him players that he doesn't want, because he's always been that type of manager. When he was at Barcelona, he got the players that he wanted to work in his system, and he would improve Mbappe a lot. He'll get Mbappe up to the next Ballon d'Or level, I would say. He'll get him up to that level, and I feel that if he stays and he can build a team around him, I think PSG might have a chance. You never know. They could have a chance next season. So it's all up to him and see if he gets the job. And the board give him time as well, because PSG are not a club that gives managers a lot of time.
They don't.
One season, you're out.
They are super impatient.
I think they need to, if they want to win the Champions League, they say to Enrique, you know what? We're going to give you a full 5-year deal, and we're going to give you enough. We'll give you all the financial backing you need to buy the right players and get the right system, and then take it from there. And if it doesn't work in year 1, we'll give you another chance next year. But we need to see more progress in Champions League, not the league. They won the league so many times now, so they want the big one. That's the Champions League. So yeah.
Cool. Well, we want to move on from a club that could do well to a club that, it's comeback season. Let's talk Liverpool. We're going there, Mark. We're going over to Anfield. Obviously, of all of our teams, you're the one that's made the first signing this summer. Well, I guess, yeah, you are the one who made the first signing this summer. Obviously, Chelsea confirmed Christopher Nkunku, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a second, because we've got a lot to talk about with you guys and what you're doing. But, Alexis Macalister got over the line. You finally strengthened in midfield, which has been long overdue. How do you feel about that business and some of the rumours that's been sort of lurking around in addition to him joining Liverpool?
Yeah, Alexis Macalister's a good deal, good business, a lot cheaper than I expected, which, I think this kind of went under the radar with Alexis Macalister, that when he went to the World Cup, Brighton signed him on a new contract, but nobody really knew that he had a minimum release clause in that contract, because everybody was talking about 60, 65, 70 million for a player that's just won the World Cup. And, pretty smart by Alexis Macalister to say, look, I'll stay, but I want a release clause because I want to be able to leave. I want to be in the list of players that goes on to bigger things. No disrespect to Brighton, they're a fantastic football club. But yeah, I think it's time for him to, even though we'll both be in the Europa League next year, play at a higher level, and hopefully compete for more. The great thing about Alexis Macalister is he's a young Jordan Henderson profile in the fact that he can play the 6, he can play the 8, and he can play the 10. So he really does give us options in midfield and the ability to really be flexible. If we want to play Trent as the 6, then Alexis Macalister can play as the 8. If it came to it, and we bought a more defensive minded midfielder, there's Manu Kone, who has been linked with us there from Borussia Mönchengladbach, for example, and there's still Fabinho around. So if we wanted 2 defensive midfield minded players, Alexis Macalister could play as the 10. So for me, I think it's a great signing. It's a piece of business that gives you the flexibility now to go out and sign more specifically the pieces of the puzzle that you want. So no, I'm happy. It's got to be the start of the business. There still needs to be 1 or 2 more midfielders coming through the door. And one thing that I'm just gonna put out there into the ether, and we'll see, is that Liverpool obviously didn't sign Jude Bellingham and said that they weren't signing Jude Bellingham because they couldn't afford a Ferrari. But I do think it's interesting that there is another Ferrari with 1 year left on his contract at the moment, who could be an interesting potential move for Liverpool, and that is of course Kylian Mbappe. And I say this considering you look at how far short Liverpool have fallen from Manchester City this season, and mainly because of the qualities that is Erling Haaland, and that ability to score so many goals from that front forward position. And obviously Real Madrid are the number 1 candidates for Kylian Mbappe, and you would think that if Real Madrid pull their money out of their pocket, that Kylian Mbappe would end up at Real Madrid. However, the fact that Real Madrid have spent the money that they've spent on Jude Bellingham, knowing that Kylian Mbappe is going into the final year of his contract and they could sign him on a free contract in January, and PSG not wanting to lose him for no money, it could just be one of them things in which Liverpool could test the waters of Real Madrid's actual interest in getting that deal across the line by putting in a 60, 65, 70 million pound offer and just saying, okay, let's play ball. Let's see what happens. And Liverpool could potentially afford to do it because they haven't spent the money that they'd spent on Jude Bellingham. Now, I'm not saying they will, but I think it's just an interesting thing to put out there and have kind of in the mix of potential things that could happen at Liverpool this summer.
Well, it's definitely an interesting option. I think Mbappe to Liverpool would be a smart play. I think that could be interesting. What do you guys think? Mbappe to Liverpool.
That'd be a massive. That'd be a statement in intent. If they get Mbappe, then you have to look at Liverpool as one of the biggest challenges next season in the league. That'd be a massive. Yeah. That'd be Liverpool's biggest sign in a long time, in a while. Since
I think it would be their biggest signing.
It'll be their biggest ever signing. World Cup winner, still at the right age of 20, in his earliest stage of 20s. So he'll be there for 7-8 years, maybe 9 years. A long time.
Stand by it. I believe I said it last week that if there's one place I think he's going to go, it's there, and I'll stick by it. It's a 50-50. I know it's a 51% chance it could happen. So I'm going to stick with that. But I think it would make the Premier League even more exciting because now there's more headline players. So yeah, I'm open for it.
I think for me, the only thing that would make me believe Real Madrid would not go for him is the fact that they need a guaranteed number 9, and Mbappe doesn't really want to play through the middle so much at this point in his career. So that's what makes me think that maybe the door is maybe more than 51%. I'd probably say 65% likely that's a viable option. Obviously, Real Madrid have also signed Joselu, former Newcastle striker. That guy is, I mean, his agent is doing a great job. So they've got him on a short-term deal, but they've got their striker, a striker of sorts. There's been lots of rumors about Harry Kane, so they might make a push there. Obviously, Mbappe is the one they wanted. They might go there. But that it kind of leaves a door open for someone else to make that move for Kylian. I want to throw a couple extra names to you, Mark, as well, in terms of for Liverpool, because there's 3 names that have popped up recently on the rumor mill and what you think about them. The first one is Nicola Barella from Inter Milan, who we thought was going to go to Newcastle, but they've pulled off an interesting deal. My goodness, and we're going to touch on that very shortly, very quickly. That's one player that's linked with you guys. Also, Ryan Gravenberch, which I think that one has legs, and you have mentioned that as well. And there's a centre-back called Mickey van der Veen from Wolfsburg. So those 3 players, of the 3, would you be happy with all 3, or is there 2 in particular that you'd want over the other?
Don't know too much about the centre back. We do need a centre back. So I think that is inevitable. Van Dijk's finally able to get taken on a little easier than he used to. Gomez has been plagued with injuries, and it just isn't the player that's really ever going to be what we hoped he'd be. And there's talk that might exit as well this summer too. So I think a centre back is needed. Who that centre back is, I don't know. And I don't know enough about the Wolfsburg guy to say whether or not he would be a good enough signing for us. Barella is a player I rate highly. I think everyone who watched the Champions League final sees his quality. He's a talent. He's very, very good on the ball, and would be a kind of number 8. Who can take the ball forward and move the ball forward. And a player that I would be very happy if we signed at Liverpool. And the same can be said for Ryan Gravenberch. I think he's gone to Bayern early in his career and hasn't been given chance to play. He's not had enough game time. But I think there's a talented youngster there who, given the right club and the right environment, he's more physical than Barella, and I think is a different profile for the same role, but someone who I would definitely take as well. I think if Liverpool signed Barella and Gravenberch and had Barella, Gravenberch, Macalister as their 3 midfield signings, I'd come out of this window incredibly happy.
Yeah, it would definitely make you guys very strong. I think, you need strengthening. We know that Virgil van Aura, he can't get away with that defending anymore. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just not. I mean, some of the goals he's conceded for international level, it just makes you want to is this really Virgil van Dijk? Like, what's going on here, bruv? Like, you are better than this. You should be ashamed of yourself. But one club who are definitely showing that strategy and patience pays off, Newcastle. Breaking news today, Sandro Tonali is on his way there, £70 million deal. And I need to caveat that with a lot of context. So, back end of this past season gone, Paolo Maldini, who has been their director of football, kind of been overseeing all the football operations of what they've done, he's been monumental in bringing them back to the top table, in them winning Scudetto a couple seasons ago, was fired. And that news shocked us when the season ended. We thought that was just bizarre. And that conversation was around reinvestment into the club, and he was not happy with the direction the club were planning to take. And now we're starting to see the fallout from that because he's gone. Football retired from Zlatan, as we said. And now Tonali's leaving. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone put in a massive bid for Rafael Leao and is able to prize him away this summer, because, I mean, he did a post when he heard the news and he was like, I can't believe this. What? Are you serious? Maldini's gone. So
It's the AC Milan.
it's crazy. But I'll start with you, Craig. This news of Toonali going to Newcastle, how big is that? And is this now Newcastle showing that, in spite of Mark's thoughts on Aston Villa, that they're actually here to stay in the top 4?
I think this signing is showing. It's actually showing that they qualify for Champions League and they want to make that marquee signing, and Tonali's a marquee signing. 70 million is a lot of money to buy on one player, and he's won the Scudetto in Italy, and he's a good midfield player. Italian international.
He's a baller, man.
Baller.
I think we would all take him at our clubs
100%.
comfortably. I think we wanted him at our clubs.
Brilliant player.
Tough tackler, good with his feet. This is just a good player. All around good player. It's going to make Newcastle even better. And that means him and Guimaraes in that midfield next season, with whoever, Joe Willock, whoever, they can push Guimaraes further forward, have Toonali sitting in that midfield like a number 6. They could.
Yep.
Devastating.
You know what I mean?
I think that could be the player. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, for you, Mark, when you read that news, is he a player that you looked at and thought, I'm going to have to get hold of Liverpool ownership and say, guys, if Tonali's on the move, why are we not in that conversation?
Again, like it's just a lot of money, isn't it? But what a player! He is, and also, we're now competing with a team in the Champions League. So, what a player! He is like basically the modern day Pirlo, like maybe the best example of a modern day Pirlo that there is out there, and. He sits deep. He's good on the ball. He can spray the pass. But he's got enough about him that he can physically get the ball back and break the play up. And I watched a couple of clips of Bruno Guimaraes last year and thought this guy is too good to be playing so deep. And I think Toonali sitting will give him some freedom, like Craig says, that will be exciting to see, and that midfield of Toonali, Willock, and Guimaraes is a starting to shape out to be a very special midfield.
And they probably will have Joe Linton starting in some games as well, so you'd have Joe Linton and Bruno attacking the box. It could be quite interesting. They're building something nice over there, Newcastle.
Maximin on the wing.
Well, the rumours he might be moving on, but putting him to one side, they're building something quite nice over there. Just one more thing for you, Mark, because obviously we're going to start off with you and then bring it over to the man who is his current club owner, a local lad from Chelsea who's not really a Chelsea boy but is a Chelsea boy, Mason Mount, subject of further bids from Manchester United who want to bring him to Manchester and add him as part of their kind of crown jewels and stuff. What do you think about that transfer move in general, and do you think that will be the right call for Mount to go to Manchester United from Chelsea, and how do you think about this whole saga of him leaving there in general?
Yeah, look, I think Mount wanted more money. Chelsea didn't want to give him more money. Chelsea have a lot of options, but you don't and shouldn't spend the money that you're spending on a player of the quality, or you shouldn't have to be losing the player of the quality that is Mason Mount when he came through your academy. An academy boy, you spend the time training him, investing in him, building him up. You don't then want to be seeing that player go out of the door for, no matter how much money it is, just before he's about to hit the prime of his career. So, I think it feels like that deal is edging closer and closer. It's a good signing for Man United. I don't think it changes. I don't think it changes the game, incredibly for them, but it's another good quality midfielder that they're signing and that they're bringing into the team, and I think that will help them, in that position, because he's a talented young boy.
Yeah, it's going to be a big loss for. Oh, it's a big game for Manchester United. I'm not sure if it's a big loss for Chelsea because you're still looking to buy people, even though you and Manchester City shouldn't be allowed to buy anyone this summer. But hey. On that note, Gundogan's going to Barcelona, so that's good news. But they're also looking to buy Kovacic from you. So what's that all about?
£30 million
What is that all about?
No, I think they had his eye. I think before he came to Chelsea, they had their eye on him anyway, or it might have been Jorginho. I can't remember. But he's lost his partner in Jorginho, and without him, he can't really match up with any other really of my midfielders. He's not a goal scorer. The ball will be on the line. He'll look for a pass, or he'll probably miss. Not to say that he's not a good player. He's a fantastic player. And you know what? Funny enough, I mentioned before, if you look at his trophy sheet, if you look at what he's got, it's actually nuts with what he's had in his trophy cabinet. Is what I can't get over. Thinking he has all of this, and I'm like,
but Danny Simpson has a Premier League award, so.
No, but he has like multiple Champions Leagues, multiple things.
I know he's a really good player. I think probably wasn't the best fit at Chelsea, but I just find it for him going to Man City, I think when a club like Man City are looking to buy one of your players and their ascendancy, that's a trend with that idea. Maybe you should veto the transfer.
I mean,
just maybe.
I'd rather not go. I'd rather not any of my players go to a rival, especially when they're on the ascendancy or challenging where we want to be challenging, which is the most bizarre thing at most. But I also just think that him losing Jorginho has not really brought out the best in him. He hasn't been good for a couple of years, and it was clear that we're going in a different direction that doesn't see him as a part of the midfield. I mean, our midfield's getting picked at. You got Jorginho, he's off to City. Kante's he's off to Man City. Kante's gone to Saudi Arabia. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, he'll be next going somewhere. You know, we're looking to change. We're going in a direction, you know, or how much is Poch having involved? How much is Todd Bowley having involved? We're clearly going in a new direction where clearly these players just haven't demonstrated good enough attributes this season, and we are where we are for a reason. So, you know, it's something's got to give.
Well, like I said, I think it's very bizarre to be happy and open to selling to your rivals.
I'm not happy.
Well, I mean, you're open. Your club are open to
He's
it.
happy.
You're not happy, but your
I'm
club
not
are
happy.
open to it. You're strengthening up rivals. I mean, I say rivals in the loose sense of the word because you're not really Man City's rival anymore because you guys are struggling to do anything useful. But Craig, obviously, you know, there's the news coming out as well about Arsenal reaching an agreement in principle with Chelsea to sign Kai Havertz. The fee seems to be debated much online. Some people say it's like 65 plus this. Arsenal sources are saying it's more close to 60 million plus a few bits of add-ons here and there. So it might make the total thing close to 70 million, but it's not too bad. How do you feel about that deal and that transfer? What's your thoughts on it?
I'm surprised because I didn't see that one coming. Honestly, I didn't see Havertz. His spell at Chelsea is up and down. He won the Champions League,
Yeah.
and after that, he's been non-existent. Let's be honest. Let's be brutally honest, Matthew. He's been non-existent for you guys. Very inconsistent. He's still young. He's only like 23, 24.
Yeah.
I feel like he's had how many coaches he had now? 3 or 4 managers now, hasn't he?
He kept Lampard, Tuchel, Lampard again.
So he's only had one manager in this time at Chelsea.
and that was the manager that got the best out of him.
Yeah.
Tom Tuchel got the best out of him. Let's be honest. And I don't know what's his best position on the pitch. At Chelsea, they played him as a false 9. I would love to see what Arteta does with him if he can revive his career, because Arteta's very good with players getting the best out of them when you're thinking you're not sure why did you get that player. Like for example, Ramsdale. Everyone was saying, why did you get Ramsdale? And look what Ramsdale did in the end.
Sure.
Same with who else did he get? Look at Martinelli. When Arteta first came, Martinelli wasn't playing on much last season, and then this season just taken it by the unplayable. Even Saka, he transformed Saka's game as well. So he knows what he knows. We have to have faith in him and see what he does with Havertz.
I think there's also two key things about the Havertz deal that's really interesting to me. The first one is that Havertz himself insisted that it was only Arsenal he wants to go to, because Bayern Munich were interested and he said, no, I want to go to Arsenal, which says a lot about his mentality and his belief in what he can do. Secondly, as a player, he's described himself as more of like a number 8. So he likes to play more in midfield areas, and his footballing inspiration is Iniesta, and as a player that he is, you know, when a player describes Iniesta as an inspiration, for me, I expect to see certain aspects in your game. I know Bruno Fernandes has claimed that Iniesta is his inspiration, but we all know Fernandes, we don't see that on the pitch, bruv, at all. We don't see it. So I don't know which. Maybe you meant Iniesta, the postman, but not Iniesta. But yeah, I mean, obviously this transfer, I mean, it looks like it's going to go ahead. It has come out of a massive surprise. It's you know, we talked about it last podcast about like the thoughts on it, and you know, it's an interesting one. But do you now kind of seeing like how it's unfolding and how the player himself is pushing for this move to Arsenal? Like I said, I think it's strange to be selling to a club that's on the ascendancy. You know, and it's one of your rivals. Like we're not friends. Chelsea and Arsenal, we're not friends. But do you think that this indicates that Havertz will probably be a success at Arsenal if he does get that move?
Well, he can do what he wants. He just doesn't want to be with us anymore, and that's fine with me. He can go and do whatever it is he wants. If what's said to be true, he's saying he sees himself as more as Iniesta, and he's been played out of position. That's on us. But in all due respect, he was never going to get into that place. Well, not one as a Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic firmly establishing themselves in that midfield and doing so well. He was never even going to get there in the first place. Plus, like he said, under Tuchel, we got the best out of him, taking away the whole thing on the Champions League goal. He plays well on that side, really well with somebody going ahead. He's not a striker, which I respect that. Playing him in the wrong place, you're going to annoy a player to the point that's like, well, you're not respecting my wishes, I'm going to go somewhere else. Fair enough. But I'll believe it when I see him in that red shirt, but at the same time, it's like, he doesn't want to be there anymore. Fair enough. We're more willing to cut ties. And it was really hard to kind of see him. I know I said last week it would be interesting to see what Pochettino could do with someone like him, because I think the characteristic that him and Arteta share is working well with younger players and players that have a point to prove. And he's just not part of that plan. We've got Nkunku coming in, which will fill that hole relatively quite nicely, depending on what kind of striker we could get. But look, we are not in the position where we finished now. The season petered out. We're not in the position to be that demanding. We've got a real big job to get us back into that European hole, that European groups. So, if a player feels like they can do somewhere else, and plus, no one's thinking down around the joint. The same way you bit the bullet when you get rid of Aubameyang, and he finished second in the league. So, him being around just could be just poisoning up the whole ship.
Could be, and also sometimes players just don't fit certain environments. You need to change the environment to really kind of, as they say, unlock yourself and play to your better football. Let's talk about outgoings. Let's talk Arsenal. Let's talk about Arsenal. We've talked a lot about everybody else. Let's talk about Arsenal. So, lots of bids been put in. Edu has been busy at the barbecue this summer. He took a little break, was cooking up some great food on the barbecue, and he's come back with a vengeance. We've seen, in the past few days, we've seen bids for Declan Rice, which we've known about for months, and we've just been waiting for that to kind of come through. Kai Havertz, which surprised everyone. And now the latest to be added to that list of players is Jurrien Timber from Ajax as a potential right back / right centre back / defensive midfielder cover. So basically, we're going to have 3 players that are, or actually technically 4 players that tactically can occupy 3 positions. Kivior, who was left centre back, we signed him as, played left back last games of the season, played DM at his previous club. Tomiyasu, centre back for the national team, right back for us, and we could probably chuck him in central holding midfield if we needed to. Actually, maybe even 5 now. Ben White, centre back, right back, probably could do, and has played holding midfield for Leeds back in the day. And now Timber. How excited are you about the potential of him coming in? And also another player who was adamant that he didn't want to go to Bayern Munich, wanted to come to Arsenal, also ignored the option of going to Manchester United and linked up with his former boss. But how do you feel about that potential deal coming together and him joining us?
I think he's going to be a great signing. He done well at Ajax. He worked under Ten Hag, good manager. So he's a very solid defender. I think he'll do well at Arsenal. I feel like Arteta will get the best out of him. And we need some reinforcements in defence, because last season, as you could see, when William Saliba got injured, our season kind of capitulated after that. So we need some young, and he's quite pacey as well. It's very quick. And then I want, same way like our last season when Man United bought Martinez. Everyone was not sure about Martinez. Everyone was like, I'm not sure, but look how good he was in the end. So I think he will be as good as and then 2 played together at Ajax together. So they were very good together. So I think he'll be good at Arsenal. So I'm very happy with that. With the Declan Rice one, I can't wait for it to get over the line.
I think that will happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty clear that, and I think what's really changed it, from my understanding, is that the clubs had a gentleman's agreement with West Ham in terms of a fee, which is why Arsenal bid what they bid for the first bid. Since the Europa Conference League victory, West Ham are looking for a bit more money, and it's kind of annoyed people at Arsenal. But we're still bidding. We're bidding in bits and props. I mean, we could just chuck the bag and give 100 million right now, but that's going to impact every other deal we do. And it's the same way with Mason Mount and Chelsea, how they're bidding in weird increments. It's like this amount up, they'll increase the amount up front and then they'll kind of lower down the add-ons amount. So it's slightly more overall, but you're getting more up front. So they'll get to the right number eventually. It'll probably be something close to 90 plus 10 add-ons, I think, so we'll probably end up doing.
It's just that.
It's just timing. And he's on holiday right now, so I think it should get wrapped up when he gets back.
Yeah, so that'll be good. Get Declan Rice in, see what he does with Kai Havertz. So we're getting players in. So I want to see how well we do in pre-season with the new players, how they fit in the club, and then new season we've got like Nottingham Forest. We've got some winnable matches in the first couple of games of the season. So I'm not taking some of the teams for granted because we have to go on the pitch and win the matches. So that's the most important thing. So we have to make sure we start well like we did last season. And this time, hopefully, win the league. This time, don't fall off. So,
well, that's the thing. I think as a minimum for Arsenal, for this coming season, you'd want top 4 again, minimum. You probably want to finish in the top 3 again. I'd even say go as far as say second would be. But I think overall, if you say top 4 finish again as a very minimum, you then want to have a good strong run in Europe, and you're talking like at least last 8, maybe even last 4, but at least last 8. Not round of 16. Let's get to last 8. Shall we get at that point, and then win one or both the domestic cups? Like you really want to go strong this season. But just looking at obviously players' options as well. Obviously, there's also been talk about Caicedo that's been going around for ages, and then we talked about the Rice-Sado thing last podcast. We don't know what's going on there because you guys are linked with him. Kante's leaving, so you need a player that's going to have that sort of stature and presence in midfield and what Kante could do at his best, which Caicedo could be. There's also now talk about Romeo Lavia as an option at Arsenal, and I'm quite intrigued by that because I think when we played Southampton, he definitely made Thomas Partey look old. But for you, Matt, when you hear about that kind of talk of potentially Lavia to Arsenal, what's your kind of view on that? Do you think that would be a good move, not just for him, but how do you think that would play out if he was to come over to Arsenal?
If he came over, he doesn't deserve to be in that Southampton team. Doesn't deserve to be. He's one of the better players, probably the best player that kind of came from there. But he's going to be part of a big project moving forward. Like you're in the Champions League, you're only 5 points behind the team that won the treble. That spot is going to be there waiting for him once he loses likes of Thomas Partey and potentially even Granit Xhaka. Plus the link up with Declan Rice. It shows that it's strength. It not only shows that you're serious about these kind of signings and you want to make a point, it's like strength in depth. So if one player's out, another player can come in. So if you're forward to have someone like him and possibly Kai Havertz on the bench, you know that you're doing something right. You're preparing for extra competitions, like you said, because if there's one criticism that you had from last season was that your cup competitions you did really, really poorly. Now, cup competition can do a lot for a manager and a player because it just shows that, in all the extra games that you had, while still maintaining a good state in the league, it means you're fighting on so many fronts. So it shows good squad rotation, players get used, their morale boosters up, and for all you know, it might be encouragement to go further in the next season. Now, that could be your thing. Let's say the league doesn't work out this year because Man City are looking to possibly even get stronger. They're probably even going after the quadruple, but you can, if you don't get them in the league and get them in the other cups, like you said, Carabao, FA Cup, a double, and that will do your players such a world of good. It'll be a fantastic achievement. Building and building and building, you're failing forward. So even the second place finish with 2 trophies, anything can be an even better season because it's a statement of ambition that your new signings have clearly worked. You're working towards somewhere forward. Could you imagine someone like him and Declan Rice in their first time of asking, coming in, let's say you get to the semi-finals of the Champions League and you get to a final for both Carabao and, for the FA Cup. Or let's say what happens is, let's say the Champions League doesn't work out, but you end up in the Europa League. You win that, which gets you into the UEFA Super Cup final. That's back-to-back finals for someone like Declan Rice, and the first time for someone like Lavia. So that's hindsight though, isn't it? So if all goes well for you, I mean, that's how you should be looking at it for next season. I think he's going to be a great addition for you. It's the word is exciting and depth.
Yeah, I think the thing I like a lot about how we've going about our business this summer is that we are doing multiple deals. And we're not just like we're doing deals. We've been working on these for months because these transfers, they don't just happen overnight. Timber, that you can tell that's been months of work. Rice, we know has been like months of work. Lavia, again, that seems like one that's been conversation been happening throughout the season as the years progressed. The other player, which could be quite an interesting one instead of like an outgoing, Thomas Partey, talks that we're open to offers from Saudi Arabia for him. if the right offers come in. I think it's interesting that he's a player that's up or potentially up for sale from Arsenal. It's very interesting for me because we know Granit Xhaka is likely to leave as well because he and his family, they want to go back to Germany. His wife wants to go back to Germany, so that makes sense. And I think at this time, this is like his last contract move, I guess he's going to get.
Payday, yeah.
It's not so much the payday, it's more to move to a club at a certain level. I don't know if he's going to get that kind of move again if he stays for another season at Arsenal too. But also the opportunity to go into coaching post-football in Germany. So they have a great system that would work quite well for him. So it makes a lot of sense. But Thomas Partey, we've all known he's been one of our key players for years and years and years and years and years when he's fit. And we also know that Arteta has been very ruthless in general. And I think as fans have been calling for him to be more ruthless with how we do stuff. And so I know people are a bit surprised that Partey is potentially at the chopping block. But let's just be honest. Last season in the run-in, that brother fell off a cliff. The game against Man City, poor. Southampton at home, poor. Liverpool away, poor. West Ham away, poor. There's so many games I can think of where Partey. I mean, the fact that our last 2 games of the season, where did Partey play? Right back, inverted right back, says everything. Nottingham Forest game, he was poor, and then he found his feet last game of the season. But how do you feel about the news of him potentially moving on? Putting aside alleged rumours of other stuff, but just on a footballing note, not about the other stuff. How do you feel about that?
I was a bit surprised, but when I look at it now, I think Arteta's had enough. He's been patient. He's been very patient with him, and I think his injury record is what stopped it. Has stopped him being a success. His injury record is very poor.
He's a classy player. We like him. He's a Rolls Royce of a footballer.
But he can't stay. He hardly stays fit. He'll play 5 games consistent. So he'll play 5 consistent games. Then the 6th game he might go on international break and come back. He's injured. Have you noticed? Every time he goes on international duty, he comes back. He's injured. I don't know what it is. No, honestly, Matthew. Every time he goes on international break, I'm just praying. I'm saying, I hope he doesn't get injured. When he comes back and plays the next game after international break, he's not the same player. Like last season, for example, when he had the international break I think it was before the end of the season, he came back. He was not the same player after that.
No.
That was a game when I think that game was. Who did we play after that game? I think we played. Who did we play? I don't know what game it was, but we played a game and he didn't look himself at all. So
Squad player?
I mean,
Cups?
Look, I think he has been our starter a lot. And he'd definitely be one of the first names you'd put on the team sheet as things are. I think the fact that Arteta's happy to move on from him or is at least open to accepting offers for him, to me says that he's ready to move the team on to another level. I think what we saw the last 2 games of the season is quite interesting because rather than invert the left back because of Zinchenko and his injuries, we inverted the right back this time. So Partey was actually playing. So if we had Kivior, Gabriel and White, effectively were a back 3 in possession. They set to a back 3 and Partey was next to Jorginho in midfield. Then you had Ødegaard and Xhaka as the 2. So it was a box 4 in midfield. And then above them you had, Trossard, Gabriel and Saka. So we were a lot more offensive. But if you think about who we're looking at signing, you could swap out Partey in that same role, the right back position. You could put in Timber. He's comfortable in midfield. Tomiyasu's back fit. Then it inverts the other way around. So it's like, the left. So Kivior, who would be starting left, who was playing left back in that system, it'd be Zinchenko instead. So he's shifting it. So I could see it how what Arteta wants to have is just multiple flexibility in terms of that midfield 3. And you think about Kai Havertz coming in, if he's going to play in the role that Xhaka played, not the position, but the role he played, and you're thinking about that midfield setup. So you say we do the right back inversion. So you have the back 3 of, let's say it's Kivior. No, let's say it's Gabriel, Saliba, White. And then you have Timber drops into midfield in possession. You've got Timber, Rice, Ødegaard, Havertz. And then you've got Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus and Saka And you just think about how Havertz and Gabriel can I'm just thinking about the movement and the rotations. And even like, some of the runs that Saka was making for England the other day and Havertz just dropping the ball into him. Like there's possibilities there. So, I can see it working quite well. I mean, even if we have Lavia, you can even have some games where you have Rice playing in the position where Xhaka played, and you have Lavia at the base, or if he stays Partey at the base. There's lots of options we could have there, or even Caicedo if that's the deal we go for. So I'm quite happy with what Arsenal are doing, and we'll see. I think what's different now is you can tell that Arteta's moving the team on to another level. So rather than have only 11 players that he really trusts, he's looking to have 14, 15, 16, 17 players. And I haven't even mentioned Reece Nelson as a rotation. I've not even mentioned Smith Rowe as an option there. Fabio Vieira, who should be proper there. George, good old boy George. I think Kai Havertz was very upset when Jorginho left Chelsea. So maybe that might be a connection they could reconnect on the pitch.
And they actually connected really well.
They did. And then, so we'll see. I mean, the final thing I'll bring up, another player that's had a really great season, potential player that could get picked up by someone, is Xavi Simons. What's really interesting is he has a €6 million buyback clause for PSG, which is only active for the month of July. So, will someone make an attempt to go for him? Man United, Arsenal, Brighton, Spurs, Dortmund and Leipzig have all interested clubs. They've been made aware of this clause in his contract, but do you think he'll end up back at PSG, or do you think one of the other teams will snap him up? I mean, would you take him at Chelsea?
I'll take him.
Considering the mess of your team, I don't know if you would go, though. Get him to England, but
I'll take him.
Sense.
But it's a case of, with a lot of the other players, the deals we have coming through right now are deals that we've already sorted. And, some of the deals are still fresh. January wasn't that long ago. So if anything, some of them are still brand new. So it would be a case of me wanting to take him. It could be a case of, like you said, would he come and where would he go? What would he do?
Question for you on that note. Xavi Simons, Conor Gallagher. That's hard.
Is because I refuse to believe, because Conor Gallagher's only ever worked on Frank Lampard when he's been there. I don't think he had much of a shine to Tuchel, and Tuchel didn't give much. By the time he came on the scene, Tuchel was already gone. So it's going to sound mad because I know there's a good player in there, and I refuse to have the potential of losing another talented prospect. I'm going to give Conor Gallagher, you owe me, and give him a chance to prove me wrong.
Gallagher or Xavi Simons?
Simons was tearing it up last season, and he was tearing it up in the Europa League, and
never give him a chance.
But I feel like Chelsea needs to start looking after their homegrown players, because you can't be losing all your homegrown talent, because if the quota in the Premier League comes up, they said you need to have certain homegrown talent on the 20, they're gonna have to end up buying another homegrown talent when you've got loads of homegrown talent in your squad already. So if you end up losing another one, it'll be a shame.
One that ain't going nowhere is James. He ain't going nowhere.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
Very good player.
Well, there's lots of changes happening, lots of deals going on as we speak. People are bidding here, there and everywhere. People want to get players. People are making their moves. But we'll see what happens next week. Breaking news, David De Gea and Man United yet to agree over new contracts, so he might end up moving on. Hopefully not, because he's a great player and he should definitely never leave Manchester United. But if they end up moving on from him, so be it. But thanks everyone for listening. Who are you most excited to see make moves? What transfer are you looking forward to hearing about? Do you think Havertz will be a success at Arsenal? If not, let us know. Have a good rest of the day. I'll see you all next time.
Peace.